Welcome back to CXO Revolutionaries, brought to you by Zscaler. My name is Ben Fanning. I'm your co-host. I've got a treat coming your way today with Syam Nair, who is the Chief Technology Officer here at Zscaler. He's also served as a senior leader with organizations you know like Salesforce, Microsoft, and other organizations. He's also an advisor on the Dean's Advisory Council for Indiana University's Luddy School of Information, Computing, and Engineering. Syam, welcome to CXO Revolutionaries.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So let's dive into your career early on. I understand you went to the Naval Academy in India. What was that like, and how did that impact your career?
Yeah, so starting off schooling, I went to a school that was preparing students to become naval officers or army officers in India. So I left home at the age of 10, being in a boarding school, military school, where discipline and starting everything with a purpose was important. So it was my dream to be part of the Indian military service, join the Naval Academy. Unfortunately, as it would happen, like I had a medical problem where I had to leave the Naval Academy. So at that point, was pretty regrettable. But looking back, I think it kind of helped me build and be ready for what comes your way in your career. So I often talk about, and I've repeated this multiple times, like my career has been all about planned happenstance. I planned to be somewhere and things happen and I get into my role. So very early days, being independent, being purposeful, learning to have the importance of belonging, those are all things that I kind of learned from my background in the Naval Academy.
Planned happenstance. That's interesting coming from a technology executive where you're building things out. It's probably a very structured plan of this is how we get from here to here, but then something changes probably.
The most important thing is we have to accept change. Change is constant. And being ready to accept the change, having that beginner's mindset to think about, hey, with this new opportunity, what can I do? What can we collectively do so that we can get the best out of the opportunity and have the biggest impact? So to me, planned happenstance is more about, I plan to be ready for something. Happenstance is, things happen and changes happen and there's an opportunity that comes up, whether it is a job opportunity, whether it's something else where you can have an impact. And if it's something that actually stretches me, if it's something that challenges me, if I see that, hey, look, I can learn, I can become a better professional, I can become a better human being and have that impact. That's what I look at for when I say planned happenstance. So it's a little bit maybe oxymoron to say that, but that's how I
like it. You also mentioned the term beginner's mind. What does that mean to you and how has that been helpful in your career?
So a lot of the credit for this I would give to leaders with whom I worked with in the past. So it is easy to talk about inclusiveness, beginner's mind, but then when it comes to stressful situations, we always go back to what we know, right? So the beginner's mind to me is, at Microsoft, Satya, when he became the CEO, would talk about growth mindset. At Salesforce, Mark Benioff, as well as leaders like Parker Harris would talk about beginner's mindset. To me, it is all about move from a I know it all to, look, I don't know, so I want to learn it all mindset. So beginner's mind is more about active listening. It's all about understanding, letting go of what I feel is right and trying to understand different perspectives. The biggest impact from my, not just in career, but even in a personal life is you start to understand people's perspectives much better. When you stop judging and saying this is how it needs to be it, religion, be it politics, be it technology, be it how people live, you start appreciating a lot more of the diversity out there when you have a beginner's mind. So I don't use it lightly. I mean it in the context of a few things, which is active listening. Second is, I've talked about this in other forums where if I feel like everybody is agreeing with me, then I feel like there's something wrong. Who is my devil's advocate? Who is that who is not agreeing with me, who is asking this question? And early in my career, in my leadership career, I would often ask one of my leaders to be the devil's advocate. I would actually tell them, you need to challenge me. because if you don't challenge me, maybe others won't, right? So beginner's mind is more about that active listening. It's more about, sometimes letting go of what I think is right and being able to absorb. And lastly, I would say is we as leaders, if we are not intentionally inclusive, which is very hard because I say all of this and I make mistakes almost every day, not being intentionally inclusive. And while I'm not being exclusive, by not intentionally not being inclusive, I end up being exclusive in my idea. So I think beginner's mind for me is knowing this, understanding what my triggers are, understanding how I operate, and kind of being on the balcony to say, hey, look, this is not how I should operate. I should actually learn more. That's what I call as beginner's mind.
Wow. And I love how you pointed out some different mentors that you'd had at your previous companies, some of them the top executives, and this is something that growth mindset, beginner's mindset, something that they foster in you, and now you've brought it to this organization. I'm curious, do you have an approach when you see someone on your team or an employee who's not really embracing the beginner's mindset and they seem stuck in their ways, do you have a question you ask, or how do you talk to them about it?
Yeah, it's especially in larger forums, it's hard because we all start getting defensive, right? But in smaller forums, what I talk about is feedback is a gift. And it's a gift worth giving. I sometimes jokingly say, it's like a gift, whether you return it or we use it, I don't really, but feedback is a gift. And the other thing I often talk about is, and I try to do it, is being direct is actually kind, because it's very easy to let people, ignore and not be direct with them. But I would rather want people who are direct with me in telling me, hey, look, this is the impact from your behavior, so that I can reflect on it. So a part of, the specific answer to your question is, it's often explaining the way I approach it, then explaining, a particular situation, and here is the behavior I saw, here is the impact I had. Do I get it right most of the time? Maybe not. I'm still learning. But quite often, I had to take a step back and say, instead of saying, this is what happened, I have to say, I saw this behavior and this was the impact on me. Was this your intention? So that I let people reflect. So that's how I try to give feedback. Again, I would say 40 to 50% of the time, I'm able to do it. There is other 50% I still need to learn.
That's pretty high compared to a lot of people, even to hit the 50% mark. Now, looking back over your career, if you were to meet your younger self today, what's a bit of advice that you would give them?
I think today, more often than not, in my professional life, I always think about one thing, and again, this is a leadership behavior I learned at Salesforce, which is you become a better leader when you let go of control, when you let go of being right, and you let go of your ego. I think if I knew that early on in my career and I could practice it, I would have been much better off, because I couldn't let go of control, because when I know how to get things done, and when I was in control, I felt that was the best way to get things done. I couldn't let go of being right. I would argue, and sometimes it was not productive. So there's the moving away from letting go of control and being right into productive conflict. I think it's something that if I go back 20 years ago, if I started to do that, maybe I would have been in a different place and probably learned a lot more.
One of the things, and you've posted about this on LinkedIn, is how proud you are of being designated as Zscaler on the Fortune list of best places to work, or best places to work. What does that mean to you as a leader, and what are your hopes from that designation?
Yeah, I think one thing I'll probably go back into the plan happenstance kind of thing and kind of explain how I got to Zscaler, and that probably will lead into why I'm super proud of. So when I first met Jay and we had a conversation, what attracted me was not the technology, not the business, but Jay's curiosity to learn and his humility to speaking to me. And I'm no one, I'm just an engineering leader at Salesforce, talking to me to learn about what challenges I have seen, how did I overcome them. So I never felt the interview as in like he's testing me. The interview was all about him wanting to learn. And when I joined, even through the interview process, I saw that energy that was coming from him. It was very clear in his mind what he wanted to accomplish and how he wanted to accomplish it. So the clarity was there, and the energy was there throughout. And I literally would say I don't know any other human being who has that kind of energy that I see from Jay. So the energy was there, the clarity was there, and he was looking at people who want to come be part of this and make it happen, right? So that's what I see on a daily basis at Zscaler. So when I talk to people, when I talk to engineers or I talk to sales leaders, I go to an event, the energy you see in terms of the drive, the passion, and the pride that they have in terms of what we have accomplished and how we can actually help customers, that's a very contagious energy. And I really like that fact. And I think Zscaler, not just from a technology standpoint, from a culture standpoint, is able to maintain that. And that's makes me feel like, when external entities recognize us, it's a celebration for our team that we are part of this have fun, be cool, get things done, have impact. Yeah.
And I like how you grounded that, though, in the simple cultural idea of leaders learn from other people and they learn from their employees. And that alone makes it a better place and a great place to work. Yeah. It's not just about ping pong tables and great benefits and yoga or pizza.
Yeah, it is all about, you want to be part of that, part of the team, right? You want to be, there is that belonging there. There is a purpose why we are doing it. So to me, I see all of this recognition as what our teams have built together and how Zscaler has evolved over the years and the journey ahead of us.
You say that your core strength is setting a vision and leading through execution. How does holding on to that vision and execution, how has it been challenged with AI, with a dynamic work environment that's constantly changing?
I think the biggest is, bringing that clarity, right? You talk about any kind of technology, whether it is AI, since a year ago, generative AI and large language models, we find something cool, there's a lot of hype around it, but asking the core question of how does it really simplify what we do, right? At the end of the day, I feel like there's so much to be done in the world that no technology is going to come and replace. We'll all do things differently. We don't write code the way we were writing code 20 years ago. We don't lead the way we were doing 20 years ago. We don't build software, look at AWS reInvent. It's all about cloud. 20 years ago, we weren't thinking about cloud in this manner. So I think the way we build and we solve changes, but at the end of the day, it's all about customer outcomes. It's all about simplicity. To me, how can these technologies help there? There's always going to be the hype cycle, but beyond that, the pragmatic ways this will make us efficient, through that make our customers efficient, through that we make all of humanity more productive and efficient. That's how I look at it. It's all about simplifying. Go back to Zscaler's goal is secure, simplify, and transform. And I think AI is a technology that will help us get there.
What are you doing to navigate that and communicate that vision powerfully when so many of your employees are different time zones around the globe and getting bigger by the week?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in one of the other things I talk about is I believe in being vulnerable, and I will be vulnerable here with you and say, not enough. I think part of this is, I was having a conversation with one of my leaders, and we were talking about AI and some of the projects that we're doing in the AI space. Now, there's a gravitation, there's like, everybody wants to be part of that. You just can't, it's not like, shut everything up here and go on to a particular different new project. So sometimes clearly communicating, here is a transformative work that we are doing, here is how it brings, it helps us transform collectively. We need to communicate, we need to tell that real story of what the impact is. We need to talk through not just the vision, but the risks and rewards for everybody around us. I don't think I'm doing enough of it, which is a good question that you asked, and I probably will.
And that's why you're here too.
I'll probably do more of that.
We're going to put that message out there, and this is a great way to get it out there. But no doubt that all leaders struggle with that, and when we have a global company.
Yeah.
you can't be everywhere at one time, and it's so important to remind them why they're working, what the team's supposed to be like, and and the experience that they should be having.
Yeah. I think as leaders, one of the things is it's hard. It's hard to synthesize all of this complex information and bring simple vision. But as leaders, most important is that vision, constantly communicating it, making sure that how we are progressing towards it, celebrating as we go along, whether it is success or, sometimes failures are good stepping stones towards success, celebrating them, what we learn from them. And that constant communication is important. I believe all of us, we bring our best when there is clarity, when we feel that there's a sense of belonging and everybody has that positive, contagious energy, and just let people do their best. But the hardest job is communicating that vision, continuously communicating how we are approaching it, how we are making progress, how we are executing on it.
When's a time in your career, and you already shared one of these, but you had a twist or failure in your career, and how did it lead to your success or growth on down the road?
I think the two big ones, the most transformative one for me was, I still very, very vividly remember when I came to know that my medical issue is going to cost me to leave Naval Academy, because starting age 10, that's what I prepared myself.
That was your dream. That's what you wanted to be.
And to think about, I didn't go into an engineering school, I didn't go into a medical school, and I choose this path. Now 3 years later, I'm like back to the drawing board and trying to figure out what needs to be done. That was a big one, but I think it helped me start thinking about solving problems differently. That was one. Second one was, look, I believe in once there is a purpose, when there's a belonging, and you're doing something with a great team, I feel loyal to that cause. So every time I have to change a career, move from one company to the other, I feel bad. So I think when I had to leave Microsoft, it was very hard. I did not know anything about the CRM space. I was in the database side of the business. Most of my customers were developers who would code, and I was going into the CRM space, especially with marketing. I didn't know much about marketing. So I think those were some of the moments where I have no regrets, but at that moment I was like, why am I doing this?
Yeah, Microsoft is a global behemoth, and I'm sure, did it feel risky coming to Zscaler at that point, after you just established your career there?
Yeah, from Microsoft I went to Salesforce to Zscaler. I would say at different stages in my career. I'm at a different stage in my career, so does it feel risky? Yes, but if you are not challenging yourself to do something different, you're not growing, right? So that beginner's mindset comes into play in terms of, I always look at this like, I'll learn. What is the worst that can happen? I'll be a better individual because I would have learned. I'll be a better leader because I would have learned. I would have networked and increased my sphere of influence with more people. So yeah, there is an element of risk when you think through some of the tangibles, but the non-tangibles are the rest of it. If you look at the holistically, I don't feel it is risky. I think it's just part of growth.
So how would you describe to someone who doesn't work for a cybersecurity company what it's like being a senior executive at a cybersecurity company with all the 24 hours a day, the threats, the paranoia potentially that we have? What's it like?
The first thing I would do is any software technology company, before I bring in a cybersecurity, it's all about solving problems, earning customers' trust, so that customers feel like they have the right partner. At Zscaler, especially in cybersecurity and networking and connectivity, we provide the mission-critical business needs of customers. It's like air, or it's like water. It just needs to happen and it needs to work. Otherwise, people can't get their business done. To me, that empathy that we all have to carry around, knowing that customers trust us with the most important part of their business, to be safe, to be secure, to simplify their world, that's super important. So to me, I think that is, it's the cybersecurity angle aside, it's more about, it's the trust that we earn from our customers. how do we continuously innovate, as well as how do we continuously make sure that we provide that service. That is what I would say is top.
Sounds stressful. Is it stressful?
I used to challenge some of my colleagues, and we would talk about stress is not always bad. There are two kinds of stress.
All right.
I would say there is good stress and there's bad stress. There's good stress is when I feel like there is a real problem ahead of us. There is an opportunity to solve that problem. We have the right team, we can do it. Bad stress is when you feel like, I don't really know what can be. So I think there is an element of good stress.
Okay.
There are days when there are bad stress because look, we are all human beings. Working with people brings in stress elements of it. I'm sure I create stress for others. So there is elements of bad stress. My goal is to avoid bad stress and think about how do we channel that good stress into energy to solve problems. So every time I talk to a customer or I talk to an engineer or I talk to somebody and they feel like, sometimes I jokingly say, my goal is I want to make everybody 1% more effective every week or 2% more effective every week. And that sounds like a very simple thing. If every engineer in Zscaler or every employee in Zscaler gets 1 to 2% more effective every week, do the math.
That's a cumulative positive impact.
Yeah. So that's what I look at in terms of, is my stress actually contributing towards that? Then I'm happy.
Definitely a helpful paradigm to view stress through. Is your stress helping you grow?
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, then it might be the other kind.
Yeah.
And maybe there's a way to make the bad kind of stress, turn it into something that helps you grow.
If each one of us is in different stage of our career, different needs, different priorities, but at the end of the day, I would always say is, if we are doing something where we're not having fun, then I think it's time to rethink, because there's enough opportunities that we can all continue to have fun and be productive. So,
one day, when you leave Zscaler, what do you hope your leadership legacy will be?
I believe very, very strongly in the legacy is what you leave behind and not when I am here. So I think the most important thing would be leaving Zscaler where Zscaler doesn't need me because it's self-sufficient. It has the leadership that Zscaler needs to go through the next chapter and the chapter. Whether that day is soon or far away, I would like to say that, look, I love the journey that I was on. I learned a lot. I had a positive impact. And look, the company continues to thrive without me. So letting go would be the biggest legacy I would want to have.
I love it. Well, that's sort of winding our interview up today. What's your parting thought for our listeners?
I think the biggest thing I would tell everyone is there is so much to be done, especially in the world of cybersecurity. Is a $10 trillion is what on an annual basis, it's estimated that we lose in terms of productivity, in terms of bad actors doing things. It's much larger than many of the country's economy, right? So I think the impact we can all have by creating a simple, secure world where infrastructure, data, and AI, and all of cloud infrastructure, data, AI, all of this comes together and helps. I think focus on the customer. And that's what I want to do is focus on the customer, earn their trust, continue to innovate, and through that, earn their trust. That's what I want to do, and that's what I wish everybody around us does, and it's a great opportunity for us.
Thanks for coming on the show today, Syam.
Thank you. It was good. Thank you.